Coming up on Mags on Media, how one agency, and it's a continuation of the theme, is attracting the talent that is leaving the advertising schools that we've just been talking about.
Counsel style. Counsel style. Counsel style. Get your groove on. For a coupon.
This industry's tough, so it's so hard to make a dime.
That's why we score more both above and below the line.
We don't mind the long hours, it's actually a joy.
What other company you know has its own branded disco ball when the deadline's on?
You'll never see us panic.
This is normal speed.
To you it might look manic.
This is how we roll.
We got that crazy swagger,
We got the moves like Heath and Jagger.
Another road show. Another expo. We're on the go.
we're in the know.
So if that video excites and stimulates you, you might want to think of talking to this agency, either as a potential client or maybe even as a staff member. It's called TCC. What does that stand for? Well, fairly obvious, the Creative Counsel. And joining us now is Gil Ovid and Neu-Ner from the agency. To both of you, welcome and thanks very much for joining us. Let me start with you. A little earlier we were talking about the skills shortage in the industry.
Yeah.
Is there one?
A terrible one,
Yeah.
yeah. And we face it all the time. And not only because we're not getting enough graduates, it's also about the quality of graduates and also the kind of stuff that they're learning. So it's one thing to get a graduate in the advertising industry, but the kind of stuff that we're doing and where the industry is moving, it seems that the curriculums aren't keeping up. So we're talking about operational understanding, not just theoretical, not just strategic, but actual executional understanding of activations. How do you merge digital and on the ground? How do you do all these things? They don't learn any of those things. We have to almost start from the beginning and teach them afresh.
So this point that one of the advertising schools ran was making about they like to hire engineers, for instance. Is that maybe the? Are you guys engineers by any chance?
We're not engineers.
Yeah.
We're both.
But I mean, is that a good call?
I think so. We're doing the same thing. We're actually looking out of the industry. We're looking at engineers. We're looking at architects. We're looking at designers, interior designers, people that come with a creative background, but also know how to execute things. And you find with engineers that they can come up with a good idea and they know how to execute the problem. And we think that that's where most of the schools are falling short. They come with a theoretical knowledge. They all know the same thing. And the problem is they don't know how to make it happen.
Oh, come on, engineers have got no imagination, have they?
Some have, yeah.
Both our dads are engineers, so I'm scared to say anything. We come from finance backgrounds, but it's about coming up with solutions to problems.
Gil, talk me through this video that we've just shown there. What was the thinking behind that?
For one, we wanted to have fun. It was, I think, an inspired idea to team build. We got the whole business involved in something fun. We actually only revealed the video to them at our year end, so they got involved in it, in the production of it, but never saw it until the year end function. And it was something tangible for them to share with their family and friends. And sometimes finding recruits, the best way to do so is through word of mouth. So it's about being proud of being part of the business and also not taking yourself too seriously. We wanted to say, listen, we work hard. We're a responsible business, but we can have a lot of fun.
God forbid that any of us should take ourselves too seriously. I think one of you makes the point that people go into this business, but you're looking for more than a job. It's an extension of themselves. That sounds very philosophical.
Well, our business has this thing where it swallows you in, and it's not because we tell people to work hard. It's because when you come in and you start to live and you start to think of ideas and you see that everything you think actually can happen, it swallows you. And so if you walk into our office at 7 o'clock in the evening, everyone's there. It's almost like you have to walk in and say, guys, please go home. But they do it because you get swallowed up by the passion of this business. I think your previous guest mentioned something along the lines of, it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. I think that's true. Whatever you think about can happen and does happen, and that's a lot of fun.
You've just told me before we started this interview that you've been in the business for longer than a decade, but you've been very shy. I don't know too much about you. Specialist, what, more below the line stuff? What's the core discipline of TCC?
So it's a very broad business. It covers the full value chain of sales and marketing solutions. We decided when we started that we wanted to keep a low profile, which is kind of like the way we are, but
Shy and retiring types that you are, yeah?
and we kind of changed our minds about a year ago. We said, you know, we need to build a brand out of the business that we have. But effectively what we do is we engage people. We engage customers and we create real life experiences, something that they can feel is memorable and mean something to them, and at the end of the day drive sales.
I've always said that agencies themselves are very bad at building their own brand. Final question, Rand, to you. Make the case for a smaller bespoke agency such as yourselves as opposed to the big famous network agencies.
So I think we have a different model. We have a small strategic thinking agency, an agency that tells people how to engage with consumers. That's a very small part of our business. The bigger part of our business is the actual execution. So what you find is we have a agency, a think tank, which is probably 40 big, and then we have a 500-man execution show, which is based all around the country. So our speciality lies in the fact that we interface with consumers every day. We know what works, we propose ideas that work, and then we make them work in-house. And we take accountability from point A to point Z, and that's what makes a difference.
All right, if any engineers phone to complain, I'm giving them your telephone number. Guys, thanks very much, Eddie. We're going to end the program this week with new advertising, as we always do, and we like this idea. Beachgoers and holiday makers soaking up the sun on Cape Town's trendiest beach were intrigued to see a Lipton iced tea vending machine floating among the waves. The floating vending machine is part of Lipton's Ice Sea Never Lose Your Cool campaign. The concept was to encourage people to keep their cool and practice water safety and awareness. The campaign was done in conjunction, I'm told, with the Clifton Surf Lifesaving Club. Clever, on point, we think, mostly with talkability, and this is taking brand activation, we think, to a whole new level. That's the show this week. Your views always welcome on our Facebook page. On this address, remember, we're also live on Twitter 24/7. Also, if you'd like to take a look back at some of our previous shows and interviews, this is the website address that you need, enca.com. Click on the Mags on Media icon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.